light slipped through the half-open blinds, cutting across the white sheets of thin, golden stripes. The air smelled faintly of coffee and something heavier regret. Vine lay still for a long time, listening to the silence that stretched between them. The hum of the city almost distant, as though the world was politely pretending not to notice what had just happened. Beside her, Jungkook sat at the edge of the bed, shirt unbuttoned, half loosely around his neck. His back was so tense, shoulders rigid, his eyes fixed on the floor. He looked like a man who had made a terrible decision and didn't know how to face it. Vine watched him quietly. She wasn't sure what she expected, maybe a soft smile, maybe a word of reassurance. Instead, she got silence. And silence, she realized, could cut sharper than any word. When he finally spoke, his voice came low, rough with exhaustion. Last night was a mistake. The words dropped like stones between them. Vine didn't move. She blinked once, twice, as if trying to make sense of what he had said. But she had heard him clearly. A mistake, she repeated softly, her voice trembling just enough to betray her. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, sighing. I shouldn't have let things go that far. You know I didn't mean for it to happen. Vine sat up slowly, pulling the sheet closer to her chest, as if it could protect her from the ache blooming inside. You didn't mean for it to happen? She echoed, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. You mean us? He didn't answer, he just stood, reached for his jacket and avoided her eyes. For a moment she thought he might turn back, that he might see her, really see her, and realize what he was throwing away, but he didn't. Jungkook opened the door, hesitated for a long a heartbeat, then said quietly, I'm sorry, Vine. And then he was cockshured, and with it, something inside her cracked. 2 years earlier, Vine had joined John and Chase, one of the top marketing firms in the city, straight out of graduate school. She was bright, creative, and ambitious, and John Jungkook, her boss, had noticed that from day one. He was everything she wasn't composed, successful, always a few steps ahead. People whispered that he was cold, but Vine had seen glimpses of warmth in him. A quiet smile when she presented her ideas, a softened tone when he corrected her. The way he listened her words actually cared. Over time, professional admiration had slipped into something else, something dangerous. She told herself it was just a crush, but every late-night brainstorming session, every shared look that lingered too long, blurred the lines she had tried to keep. And then came last night, the night that changed everything. Back to the present, Vine didn't go to work the next day. She couldn't. She told her HR she was sick and turned off her phone. The city outside her apartment buzzed with life, but inside she sat curled up on the couch, trying not to reply his words in her head. Last night was a mistake. She could still feel the warmth of his skin, the way his hand had brushed her cheek, like she was something fragile, something he had wanted. If it was a mistake, then why had it felt so real? Days turned into weeks, and Vine tried to bury herself in work. Jungkook kept his distance, polite but distant, professional but detached. It hurt, but she forced herself to match his tone. If he could pretend nothing had happened, so could she. Until one morning she woke up feeling off. It started as nausea, mild at first, then impossible to ignore, feel the stress, but when she missed her second period, panic bloomed quietly in her chest. She bowed a test. She didn't take it right away. It sat on her bathroom counter for hours, mocking her every time she passed by. Finally, when she couldn't stall any longer, she opened the box with trembling hands. 2 minutes later, her world changed again. 2 pink lines. Vine sank onto the floor, her breath coming in shallow waves. For a long moment she couldn't move, couldn't think. Tears blurred her vision, but she wasn't sure if they were from fear or heartbreak. She thought of Jungkook, his words, his retreat, his silence. He had said last night was a mistake, but this tiny unseen life didn't feel like one. A week later, she sat in her car outside Jungkook's office building, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly. Her knuckles were white. She had spent the entire week trying to decide what to do. Every possible outcome scared her. What would he say? What would he even believe her? Would he walk away again? Part of her wanted to protect herself, to raise the baby alone, to never let him hurt her again. But the other part, the one that still loved him, despite everything, couldn't bear the thought of lying. She needed to tell him. When she finally walked to his office, he looked surprised to see her. It had been weeks since he had been alone. "Why?" he said carefully standing. "You don't have an appointment." "I know," she replied quietly. "I just need a few minutes." He gestured for her to sit, his expression unreadable. "Of course, what is this about?" Wine's throat tightened. She reached into her bag, pulling out the folded paper, the clinic confirmation. Her hand shook as she set it on the desk. Jungkook's eyes flicked down, scanning the words. For a second he didn't move, then slowly he looked up at her, color draining from his face. "Wine, is this?" She nodded before he could finish. "I found it last week." Silence. The air between them grew heavy, suffocating. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Jungkook leaned back, rubbing his temple. "Are you sure?" The question stung, though she hadn't expected it. "Yes, I had it confirmed." He exhaled slowly, his mind racing. I don't understand how." Wine's eyes fell. Her voice stayed steady. "You said last voice was a mistake that day, but mistakes don't disappear, Jungkook. They have consequences." He flinched as if the words had hit her harder than she intended. For a long moment, neither spoke. Jungkook walked to the window, staring out at the skyline. When he finally turned back, his voice was low, careful. "I need time to think." Wine's lips parted. "Think? This isn't something I can answer right now." Something inside her broke again, smaller this time, quieter like a candle snuffled out. "You don't need to answer," she said, standing. "I just thought you should know." She left before he could say anything else. As she stepped into the elevator, tears slipped down her cheeks, hot and silent. For a second time in 2 months, she was walking away from him, but this time she wasn't alone. The elevator door slid shut with a soft hiss. Wine leaned against the cool metal wall, pressing a trembling hand over her stomach. It still didn't feel real. The hum of the elevator drowned out her thoughts, but the echo of Jungkook's voice, "I need time to think," rang in her ears. She wasn't sure what hurt more, the rejection or the hesitation. When the elevator reached the ground floor, she stepped out, blinking against the harsh lobby lights. She felt invisible among the chatter and footsteps of people going about their normal lives. Her world had shifted entirely, but no one could see it. Outside, the wind beat against her cheek. She pulled her coat tighter, walking out tremulously down the crowded street, trying to find a piece of herself that still made sense. Later that night, Vine sat curled up on her couch, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her apartment was dimly lit, the faint hum of the refrigerator the only sound. On the coffee table lay a half-empty cup of tea and her phone screen dark. Her best friend Maya had called earlier, but Vine hadn't answered. She didn't know how to explain any of this, not yet. She reached for her phone again, thumb hovering over Jungkook's name in her contacts. She wanted to send a message, something simple, something that might close the distance between them. "I didn't tell you because I wanted anything from you. I told you because you deserve to know." But she couldn't bring herself to press send. What would be the point. He needed time to think. She placed the phone back down and whispered into the empty room, "You have all the time in the world." Tears welled up, but she blinked them away. Crying wouldn't fix anything. Jungkook's apartment. Across the city, Jungkook sat in his dark apartment, still wearing his tie from work. He hadn't turned on the light since he got home. The paper Vine had handed him, the one confirming the pregnancy, lay on his coffee table, at just grazed from how tightly he had been holding it earlier. He couldn't stop thinking about her face when she said those words, "I'm pregnant." A thousand thoughts battled in his mind, guilt, confusion, a strange, unshakable pull toward her. He tried to bury what had happened between them. After that night, he had told himself it was wrong, unprofessional, reckless. He had convinced himself he was protecting her by keeping his distance. But now, every justification fell hollow. He ran a hand through his hair, groaning softly. "What have I done?" The truth was, he had fallen for her long before that night. He just didn't know how to admit it. Not to her, not to himself. Now she was carrying his child. The doctor's visit. 2 weeks later, Vine sat in the waiting room of the clinic, the smell of antiseptic sharp in the air. The rhythmic tick of the clock on the wall matched the pace of her heartbeat. A nurse called her name and she followed her into the small room. "Congratulations," the doctor said kindly after the ultrasound. "You are about 8 weeks along. Everything looks healthy so far." Vine stared at the black and white screen. There, in the middle, was a tiny flutter, a heartbeat, hers still in response. It was the smallest thing she had ever seen, and yet it made everything feel enormous. As she left the clinic clutching the sonogram photo, she realized something had shifted inside her. The fear was still there, but now it was joined by something else. Resolve. Whatever happened, she would do this. A week later, Vine was leaving work late when she saw Jungkook in the parking lot. He was standing beside his car, talking to someone on the phone. When he looked up and saw her, his expression faltered. He ended the call quickly and walked over. "Vine, wait." Her first instinct was to keep walking, but she stopped, standing a few feet away, clutching her back like armor. "How are you?" he asked quietly. She gave a short laugh. "You really want to know?" He looked guilty. "I have been meaning to talk to you." She raised an eyebrow. "You have had plenty of time to think, remember?" He sighed. "I deserve that." "Yeah," she said softly. "You did." They stood in silence, the air heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Jungkook spoke. "I didn't know how to do this right, Vine. I made a mess of things. I thought ending it was a responsible thing to do, that it would protect both of us." She folded her arms. "And how is that working out for you?" He gave a tired smile. "Terribly." Something in his tone softened her anger, but she didn't let it show. "I'm not asking for you anything," she said quietly. "Not your money, not your help. I just needed to tell you the truth." "I know," he said, "but you shouldn't have to go through this alone." Vine frowned. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean it." His voice was steady now, his eyes locked on hers. "I may have said last night was a mistake, but I didn't mean you were. I was scared, Vine. I still am. But I want to be there if you let me." Her throat tightened. "It's not that simple." He nodded slowly. "I know, but maybe we can start with simple things." For a moment, they just looked at each other, two people standing in the ruins of something fragile, unsure if they could rebuild it. That night, Vine lay in the bed, unable to sleep. Jungkook's words replied in her mind. Maybe we can start with simple things. Part of her wanted to believe him, to trust what he meant, but another part, the part still carrying the echo of last night, was a mistake, couldn't forget how much it had hurt. She turned on her side, her hand resting on her belly. "We will be okay," she whispered to the little life inside her. "Even if it's just you and me." but deep down she knew she did out completely. Jungkook stayed awake until dawn. She hadn't realized how much he had mixed her, not just her laughter or her ideas at work, but her quiet strength, the way she made him want to be better. He wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear: walking away had been the real mistake. As the morning light spilled through his window, he made a silent promise he would fix what he had broken, no matter how long it took. The city moved around Vine like a current she couldn't escape. Every day she went to work, came home, and tried to pretend that her life was still normal, even though nothing felt normal anymore. The pregnancy was no longer a secret. She could hold Jess in her hand. It was a part of her, a quiet, persistent reality she couldn't ignore. Yet, even in her careful planning, there was one thing she hadn't counted on: Django. It started with a message, simple, short, and almost hesitant. Can we talk? I will come up by after work. J. Vine stared at her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. Her first instinct was to delete it, her second was to ignore it, her third, the one she tried to bury under layers of pride and fear, was to reply, fine, but only for a few minutes. She pressed send and immediately regretted it. Wondering if she had made a mistake, she told herself it was only practical conversation, not a reconciliation. Jungkook arrived at her apartment precisely at 6. He looked unsettled, not his usual composed self, but raw in a way he hadn't seen before. His suit jacket was slightly wrinkled, his tie loose. There was a tension in his jaw that spoke of sleepless nights. Hi, he said quietly, almost a whisper, as if speaking loudly would shatter the fragile truce between them. Hi, she replied. Sitting on the edge of the couch, she kept her hands folded neatly in her lap, even though they were trembling. They stared at each other for a long moment, neither of them knowing where to begin. Finally, Jungkook spoke. I wanted to make sure you were okay, and the baby. Her eyes narrowed. That's your first concern? He flinched. It's important to me. Vine's chest tightened. Part of her wanted to laugh in disbelief. Another part wanted to throw herself into his arms and let the tension of the two last month evaporate. She clenched her fist to stop herself from doing either. I am okay, she said finally. The baby is fine. I have been to the doctor. Everything is fine. Jungkook nodded, relief flushing over his face. Good, that's good. A fragile silence followed with all the words they couldn't say. Over the next few days, Jungkook made a careful effort to be present, not intrusively, not with demands, but with quiet gestures that spoke louder than words. He would send a testing, asking if she needed anything from the store. He would occasionally call not to check up on her but just to say hello or just ask how she was feeling. At first, Vine resisted. She refused to let him back in, unwilling to open the door to someone who had hurt her so deeply. But slowly, she began to notice the small things. The way he remembered her favorite tea, the way he paused before speaking, as if measuring every word to avoid causing her pain. One evening, while Vine was sitting on the balcony of her apartment, watching the sunset, there was a gentle knock at the door. Jungkook, she called, hesitated. He stepped inside, holding a small bag. I thought you might like this, he said, offering her a bundle of herbal teas and a few snacks recommended for her pregnancy. Vine hesitated but took the bag. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he replied simply, a shadow of vulnerability in his eyes that made her heart ache. She studied him. There was a sincerity she hadn't seen in months. The walls she had built around herself was beginning to crack, whether she wanted them to or not. It's thoughtful, she admitted softly. He gave a small, awkward smile. I know I have made mistakes. I don't know how to make more. Vine looked down at her hands, which were resting protectively over her belly. You already have. I know, he said quietly, and I will spend every day trying to fix it if you let me. Her breath caught. It was everything she had been afraid to hear and everything she secretly wanted. Even as he began to be present in small ways, Vine felt the familiar tug of doubt. One night she sat on her bed scrolling through the old messages and photos of her phone, memories of Jungkook, the late night at work, the way he always made her feel seen, the laughter, the arguments, all of it came flooding back. She knows she still loved him, even though part of her didn't trust him, and now the tiny life growing inside her complicated everything further. How can I let him back in? She thought. What if I get hurt again? Yet she also knew deep down that she didn't want to do this alone. One rainy evening, Jungkook came over after work. The rain pounded against the windows and the apartment smelled of wet concrete and coffee. Vine was standing in the kitchen sipping tea when he walked in. Hey, he said softly. Hey, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, then took a step closer. I know I can't fix everything, she said, but I want to be here for you, for the baby, and for us, if that's even possible. Vine's hand trembled as he set her cup down. You said last night was a mistake, she reminded him, voice tight. How can I trust you now? He looked down, ashamed. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle my feelings, but I can't pretend I don't care anymore. And I don't want to pretend with you. For the first time in weeks, Vine let herself breathe. Maybe he was trying. Maybe, just maybe, this could work. Despite the building connection, Vine knew she had to remain strong for her child. She started documenting her pregnancy, keeping track of appointments, reading upon everything she could. She didn't want Jungkook to feel like she needed him, not entirely. But when she felt him at her side, helping her carry groceries or reminding her to take her vitamins, she couldn't help the warmth that spread in her chest. It was tentative, cautious, but it was something, and in her world of uncertainty, even something small felt like hope. One Saturday afternoon, Jungkook came over with a small envelope in his hand. What is this? Vine asked, curious. He handed it to her. Inside was a simple ultrasound frame, the tiny heartbeat visible in the picture. I wanted you to have it, he said softly. I know you already have one, but I want to be part of this too, if you'll let me. Vine stared at the picture, tears threatening to fall. It was a quiet, simple gesture, but it carried the weight of everything they had missed, the nights of silence, the heartbreak, the longing. You are trying, she whispered. I am, he said, taking her hand carefully, and I will keep trying every day if you let me. Her heart ached with a mixture of hope and fear. I don't know if I can fully forgive you yet, she admitted. He nodded. I don't expect want a chance to be there for you and our baby. That's all I am asking for. And for the first time in months, she believed he might mean it. Jungkook meanwhile sat in his apartment, the weight of the argument pressing on him like a vice. He realized how easily he could lose Vine, again how quickly doubt could undo the fragile trust they had begun to rebuild. He picked up his phone and stared at her name for several minutes before typing. I know I messed up, I don't want forgiveness yet, but I'm not giving up. I will be there, Vine, I promise. He didn't send it immediately. He sat with the words, committing to them, feeling the responsibility pressing heavier than ever before. When he finally pressed send, he knew it wasn't a magical fix. It was just a start. The following weekend, Jungkook showed up at Vine's apartment with a carefully wrapped gift, a soft, hard night blanket for the baby. Vine raised an eyebrow. You made this? He shrugged, a shy smile tugging at his lips. I asked my sister for help, but yes, I wanted you to have something from me for the baby. She accepted it quietly, feeling her heart twist. It wasn't just a gift, it was a statement, a declaration, an acknowledgement that he was trying. Thank you. she murmured. He met her gaze. I mean it, Vine. I'm here. I want to be here. Vine felt a flicker of hope that perhaps he could keep that promise. Not everything was smooth. Friends and colleagues offered unsolicited opinions. Strangers in the street gave half smiles. Whispers followed her in the grocery store, the kind of judgment she hadn't anticipated. You are so young. Are you sure about this? Do you ever know what you're doing? Each comment felt like a small knife, but she refused to let them see her falter. The baby had made her stronger, more resolute. And through it all, Jungkook remained a steady presence, even when she hadn't fully trusted him yet. He carried groceries, accompanied her to doctor's appointment, and simply sat with her in silence when the world began too much. One rainy night, Vine found herself standing by the window, watching the raindrops race down the glass. Jungkook joined her, a quiet presence behind her shoulder. Do you ever think about what it would have been like if things had been different? He asked softly. She didn't answer immediately. All the time, she admitted, his side, his hand brushing hers. I kept thinking, if I had said the right thing, done the right thing, maybe I wouldn't have lost you for those weeks. She turned to him, eyes glistening. You didn't lose me, Jungkook. I'm still here, and so is the baby. But it's not just about us anymore. I know, he whispered. I don't want to lose you again. Vine felt the truth of his words, despite the fear, despite the doubts. She wanted to believe him. Weeks later, a sudden scare brought everything to the forefront. Vine felt sharp pain and fear grip her like a vice. She called Jungkook in a panic. I am on my way, he said, his voice taut with worry. He arrived within minutes, rushing her to the hospital. Watching him pace the waiting room, wringing his hands, she realized how deeply he cared, how much he had changed in these months. The doctor confirmed it was a false alarm, but the experience left them both shaken. I don't ever want to be without you, Jungkook said quietly, holding her hand tightly. Vine met his gaze, searching for any hint of deception. There was none, only sincerity. I know, she whispered back. As the months passed, Vine and Jungkook settled into a tentative routine. The connection strengthened, and Vine remained cautious. She knew that life was unpredictable, that promises could break, and that trust took time to rebuild. The baby grew inside her, a constant reminder of both the mistake and the possibility of new beginnings. Jungkook attended appointments, helped with preparations, and slowly, through the consistent actions rather than words, began to earn her trust. And yet, the memory of the last night was a mistake, lingered a shadow that neither could erase entirely. On a calm afternoon, Vine sat in the nursery, looking at the little crib. Jungkook stood beside her, her hands touching lightly. We don't know what the future holds, she said softly. No, he agreed, but we can face it together. She smiled faintly, letting the warmth of his presence shape him. Together, she repeated. It wasn't perfect. There were doubts, fears, and the weight of everything they had endured in these months. Vine felt a fragile hope of possibility, that love, even the complicated and messy, could survive. And as she rested her hand on her growing belly, she realized that sometimes mistakes could lead to unexpected beginnings. The morning after their quiet promise, life began to move in slow, deliberate rhythms. Vine no longer measured time by days or weeks. She measured it by doctor's appointments, by the way her clothes began to fit differently, by the heartbeat she heard echoing softly through the speakers. During ultrasounds, Jungkook was there for every one of them. At first, he hovered, uncertain, awkward, unsure where to place his hands or how to act. But as weeks turned into months, that hesitation softened. He learned her habits, her cravings, her moods, the little things that made her laugh, and the quiet fears that made her cry when she thought no one was watching. And though their relationship wasn't labeled or defined, something between them had shifted. It started with pickles, then chocolates, then inexplicably both together. Vine sat cross-legged on the couch one evening, dipping a chocolate bar into a jar of pickled juice. Jungkook stared, horrified. Vine, that's a war crime. She gave him a look, daring him to argue. It's genius. Don't knock it till you try it. He groaned, rubbing his temples. I'm not sure the Geneva Convention allows the combination. Your loss, she said, taking another bite and sighing happily. He shook his head, smiling despite himself. You're unbelievable. She glanced up at him, the corners of her lips twitching. You say that like it's a bad thing. Moments like this became common, small, ridiculous, warm. Jungkook found himself laughing more often than he did in months. The sound of her voice, the way she teased him, the soft curve of her growing belly, it was all felt like home. By the fifth month, Jungkook had memorized the layout of the hospital. He sat beside Vine during ultrasounds, watching the screen with wide eyes each time. The first time he heard the baby's heartbeat, he froze. The tiny, steady rhythm filled the room, and something in his chest broke open. That's ours? He whispered. Vine turned to look at him, her expression soft. Yes, that's our baby. He didn't say anything else, but his hand reached for hers, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't pull away. After that, he started keeping a small notebook. Vine teased him for it, but he didn't care. He wrote down every milestone, the first cake, the first craving, the first time he felt the baby move beneath his palm. She laughed so hard she cried because I bought the wrong pickles, but she ate them anyway. Week 25, I felt the baby's heartbeat. I think I stopped breathing for a full moment. Week 27, she fell asleep on the couch. I watched her for a while. I never seen anyone look so peaceful, but not every day was easy. Those were the nights when Vine fears resurfaced the doubts, the memories of his words from that night. Last night was a mystery. They echoed in her mind when she least expected it. One night as she lay awake, she whispered, Do you ever regret it? Jungkook turned toward her, confused. Regret what? This, us, the baby. He stared at her for a long moment before answering. Never, he said quietly. I regret hurting you. I regret being too scared to admit how much you meant to me. But this, you, the baby, no Vine, not for a second. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. She reached for his hand and he squeezed it, grounding her in silence. Pregnancy brought sleepless nights. Sometimes Vine would wake up craving something absurd. Ice cream at 2 a.m., spicy noodle at dawn, pancake shaped like hearts. Jungkook never complained. One night she took him awake at 3 in the morning. Jungkook, I need watermelon. He blinked half asleep. Now? Yes, now. I can't stop thinking about it. He groaned but smiled. All right, watermelon it is. 30 minutes later, they sat in the kitchen floor sharing a bowl of cubed watermelon, laughing quietly as the city slept outside. You're going to spoil me, she teased. Too late, he replied softly. You already have. The words hung between them, fragile and real. Vine looked at him, heart fluttering in a way that scared her. But this time she didn't look away. By the 7th month, Vine became obsessed with organizing everything. Closets, drawers, even Jungkook's bags. You can't keep your keys in here, she scolded. This is our baby's drawer now. Vine, that's my only drawer. Then you will learn to share. He laughed and shook his head, loving her more than he dared to admit. He found himself staying longer after every visit, sometimes falling asleep on the couch beside her. They hadn't defined what they were, but the apartment was slowly becoming their space. His toothbrush appeared next to hers, his hoodie hung on her chair, his mug sat beside her in the kitchen. It wasn't official, but it was something. One evening, as they sat together watching TV, Wine gasped, "Jungkook!" He panicked immediately. "What? What happened?" She grabbed his hand and pressed it to her stomach. "There, feel that?" At first, Smoke's breath hitched. "Oh my god!" Wine smiled, eyes shining. "She's kicking." He looked up at her, stunned. "She?" Wine shrugged playfully. "I just have a feeling." Jungkook laughed softly, his hand still resting on her stomach, feeling every small moment like it was a miracle. "Hey little one," he whispered, "it's your dad." Wine froze, the heart stuttering at the word dad. It slipped from him so naturally, so full of wonder, that she couldn't even tease him for it. The days blurred into each other after that soft, ordinary, and somehow extraordinary all at once. Wine and Jungkook settled into an unspoken rhythm. He had arrived at her apartment after work, loosened his tie, and slipped easily into her world. Sometimes they cooked together, sometimes they sat in silence, and other times they argued about things so trivial that both of them ended up laughing halfway through. But even with the laughter, there was tension, a quiet current between everything they did. It was Jungkook's sister, Lila, who insisted on organizing a small baby shower. Wine had protested at first. "I don't need a big celebration," she said. "It's not like I have an army of friends to invite." But Lila wouldn't take no for an answer. "You're family now. You don't get to say no." When their day arrived, Wine found herself standing in the middle of Jungkook's living room, surrounded by pastel decorations and soft laughter. People brought gift wrap in ribbons and bows, little blankets, bottles, tiny socks so small she could cradle them in her palm. Jungkook watched her from across the room, a gentle smile tugging at his lips. She looked red and nervous but glowing, her hand occasionally drifting to her belly. When the girls finally left, Wine exhaled and looked at the pile of presents. "That was overwhelming." Jungkook laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You handled it like a pro." She smirked. "You owe me for this." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what's the price?" "Food wraps for a week." He grinned. "Deal." That night, when he did exactly that, sitting on the floor, carefully massaging her swollen feet while she half dozed on the couch, Wine thought she might actually cry, not because of pain or hormones, but because no one had ever cared for her so quietly, so genuinely. The eighth month came with new challenges. Hormones made Wine restless, and Jungkook's protectiveness sometimes tipped into frustration. "You can't carry that," he said one afternoon as she tried to lift a box full of baby clothes. "Jungkook, it's fine. It's not even heavy." "Still, let me do it. You don't have to hover over me all the time." They stared at each other, both breathing hard, her eyes flashing, his jaw tight. Then she sighed and sat down, pressing a hand to her belly. I hate feeling useless." Jungkook's expression softened. He crouched in front of her. "You are not useless, Vine. You are growing a human. You are doing something I never could." Her eyes glistened. "Then stop treating me like I will break." He smiled faintly. "Deal, but I'm still carrying the groceries." She rolled her eyes, but the corners of her mouth curved upward. A few nights later, rain drummed softly against the windows. Wine sat on the couch, wrapped in one of Jungkook's hoodies, scrolling through baby names on her phone. "What about Lena?" she suggested. Cute, but she sounds like she would talk back. Like her father then," she teased. He laughed, shaking his head. "Touchy." They went through a dozen more names, some serious, some ridiculous, until Vine's laughter turned into tears. Jungkook immediately moved closer. Hey, what's wrong? She shook her head, crying softly. Nothing, I'm scared, Jungkook. What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess this up? He reached for her hand. You won't, you are going to be an amazing mother. You don't know that? I do, he said gently, because even when you were furious with me, even when you didn't trust me, you still cared. You still fought for what was right and what was good mothers too. Vine leaned into him then, her head against her chest, listening to his heartbeat. For a long time neither spoke. In that quiet something shifted again, a deeper trust, a silent acknowledgement that whatever happened, they were in this together. By the 9th month, Vine had her hospital bag packed and repacked 5 times. Jungkook had memorized its contents: diapers, wipes, snacks, charger, baby blanket. She arched an eyebrow. You forgot the fuzzy socks. He grinned. Never. Those are at the top. They both laughed, and for a fleeting moment, the future didn't seem so terrifying. It happened in the ordinary way. They were watching a movie, a comedy Vine had seen a dozen times. She laughed halfway through, then suddenly gasped. What? Jungkook said immediately aloud. Vine's hand flew to her belly. I think my water just broke. His eyes widened. Wait, what? Now? But the due date? Do I look like I care about the due date, Jungkook? She snapped, already breathing hard. He scrambled to his feet, completely panicked. Okay, hospital bag. Car keys, where are your shoes? By the door. He found them. Grab her hand, I'll help her up. Vine clutched his arm tightly, breathing through the contractions. Jungkook, I swear, if you drive like a maniac, no promises. They stumbled out to the light. The city lights blurring as rain began to fall again. As he helped her into the car, fumbling with the seatbelt, both of them were terrified and in that moment they knew this was it. Everything they had been through, the heartbreak, the fear, the rebuilding had led to this night. The rain came harder as Jungkook drove, vipers slashing across the windshield in a panic rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Vine sat in the passenger seat, gripping his arm and breathing through clenched teeth. Slow down, she managed between the breaths. I'm trying. Jungkook, if you pass that red light, I swear I will name the baby after your words habit. That somehow got him to ease up on the accelerator. He tried to stay calm, but his hand trembled on the steering wheel. He had been in plenty of emergencies before, broken deadlines, lost deals, even emotional storms, but nothing like this. This was Vine. This was their baby. He reached out with the one hand, his fingers finding hers. Hey, look at me. Vine turned, eyes wet and wild with pain and fear. You are doing great, he whispered. I'm right here, okay? I'm not going anywhere. She nodded, breath hitching, her grip tightening around his hand until by the time they arrived, everything blurred, nurses rushing, fluorescent lights flickering. The sound of Vine's sharp breathing echoing through sterile hallways. Jungkook parked harshly and half carried her inside, shouting for help before anyone ever asked. She is in labor. A nurse appeared with a calm smile that only made Jungkook feel more frantic. Okay, sir, we will take it from here. Just breathe. His knuckles turned white. I'm fine, he said automatically. Not you, her. The nurse replied dryly. Vine between contractions somehow found the strength to laugh. She's got a point. They led to a room. A machines beeping steadily. Jungkook followed, refusing to let go of her hand even for a second. When a nurse tried to guide him out to sign forms, Vine's voice strong, commanding, stop everyone. His days, That single sentence silenced the room. Jungkook swallowed hard, bringing back emotion he didn't even know how to contain. I'm not leaving, he promised. Time blurred again. Minutes stretched into hours. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Each second an eternity. Jungkook sat beside Vine, rubbing her back as she breathed through the pain. Every few minutes she had squeezed his hand with the strength of a heavy-lined boxer. You are doing so well, he murmured. You're lying, she hissed. I feel like I'm dying. He smiled weakly. Then you look beautiful doing it. A nurse across the room chuckled quietly and Vine glared at him through a contraction. Not the time for your charm, Jungkook. Not that, he said, squeezing her hand again. In the brief moments between contractions, they found strange peace, little pockets of silence filled with sheer glances, whispered reassurance, and the quiet realization that this was the story, the miracle unfolding in real past time. Hours later, when exhaustion settled deep into her bones, Vine whispered, Do you remember that night? Jungkook's heart clenched. Which one? The night you said it was a mistake. He flinched, but it didn't took away. Every day since, I hated you for it, he said softly, staring at the ceiling. But maybe we both needed to fall apart before we could build something new. Jungkook reached out, brushing down hair from her face. I never deserved this second chance. Vine looked at him, eyes glassy but kind. Then earn it. I will, he said simply. I promise. She believed him. The doctor arrived just before dawn, calm and steady. All right, Vaughn, it's almost time. You're doing beautifully. Jungkook felt his throat tighten. Almost time. The words hit him like a wave. He turned to her, his hand trembling as he brushed hers. You ready? Vine gave a weak laugh. Do I have a choice? Not anymore. Then yeah, she whispered, let's meet our baby. The doctor gave Jungkook a look. You can stay if you want. Jungkook swallowed hard. There is nowhere else I would rather be. The room filled with quiet chaos, nurses moving efficiently, machines humming softly, rain still whispering against the windows. Vine's breathing quickened, her fingers dug into Jungkook's palm. You're almost here, the nurse said gently, just a little longer. Jungkook leaned close, his forehead resting against hers. You have got this, I swear you have got this. Her eyes fluttered open, blinding his for a split second. The world disappeared, no mistakes, no heartbeat, no fear. Just the two of them and the life they had created. Jungkook, she whispered, when this is over, hold her first. He froze. Why no? Please, she said softly. You will be a great father. I want her to know that first. He nodded, tears slipping freely now. Then we will both hold her. The doctor's voice broke through the haze. Okay, Vine, it's time. Jungkook gripped her hand tighter, his voice breaking as he whispered, I love you, you can do this. Vine gave a small smile, tired smile, the kind that could undo him completely, and took a deep, steadying breath. Outside the rain began to slow. Dawn crept over the horizon, washing the city in soft light. And inside the small hospital room where the pain and love intertwined, the world was about to change forever. The clock read 4:27 a.m. when Vine screamed the toll through the room. Jungkook's hand was wrapped in hers, his knuckle crashed. But he didn't flinch. He just held tighter. You are doing amazing, he said hoarsely, voice trembling. You say that one more time and I will throw something at you. Vine snapped between labored breaths. The nurse laughed softly. That's normal, they all say that. Vine's glare shot her way, but it melted as another contraction hit. She groaned, sweat glistening on her forehead. Jungkook was instantly there, wiping the brow, whispering useless things, praying silently for her strength. His heart felt like it was being squeezed. He had never seen anyone so strong or so fragile all at once. Each push felt like eternity compressed into seconds. The doctor's voice was calm and firm. Okay, Wyatt, one more deep breath. You are almost there. Jungkook leaned close, whispering, almost there. You have got this, baby. She half cried at the word baby, knowing it wasn't just encouragement, it was the truth that would soon fill their world. Her body tensed again, her hand clamped over his. Jungkook kissed her knuckles. I'm right here, he said over and over like a prayer. Vine squeezed her eyes shut. Don't let go, never, he promised. The rain had stopped outside, leaving only the quiet hum of machines and the rhythmic beeping of the monitor. The doctor spoke again. Okay, Vine, one more push, one more, you can do this. Vine's entire being tightened. Jungkook's throat burned as he watched, powerless, terrified, awestruck. Then a sound, a tiny sharp cry. Time stopped for a moment, no one breathed, and then the nurse smiled, lifting a small squirming bundle, and that sound, that beautiful, impossible cry filled the room. Vine collapsed back against the pillow, sobbing and laughing all at once. Is she? She's perfect, the doctor said softly. Jungkook froze where he stood, tears streaming freely now. The nurse handed him a pair of scissors. Dad? He blinked. What? Would you like to do the honors? His hand shook as he nodded. He stepped forward, breathed gently, and cut the cord fragile bridge between before and after. His hand shook as he nodded. He stepped forward, breath tumbling, and cut the cord, the fragile bridge between before and after. The baby cried louder, stronger, and Jungkook saw his heart cracked open completely. The nurse wrapped the baby and turned to him. Do you want to hold her? He hesitated, his hand trembling so much he thought he might drop her. I don't know if I should. Vine's voice, soft and exhausted, came from the bed. Jungkook, hold her. That was all it took. He reached out clumsy, terrified, and then she was there in his arms, tiny, warm, real. Her skin was pink and soft, her face clenched in protest at the cold air. Jungkook's breath hitched as he stared down at her. Hey, he whispered, voice breaking. It's me, your dad. The world felt strange on his tongue, foreign and miraculous all at once. He quieted at the sound of his voice, just like that, as if she already knew him. Jungkook laughed through the tears. You know me, huh? Of course you do. You have been hearing me talk to your mom for months. Vine watched him, her chest rising and falling slowly. Despite the exertion, her smile was radiant. She looks like you. Jungkook turned to her, eyes glistening. God, I hope not. She deserves better. Shut up, Vine whispered, her laughter weak but full of love. A nurse gently transferred the baby into Vine's arms, and Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed, unable to look away. Vine gazed down at the tiny face pressed against her chest, her expression somewhere between disbelief and pure awe. Hi, little one, she whispered. I'm your mom. The baby shifted slightly, eyes fluttered open, just long enough to glimpse the world for the first time. Jungkook brushed a strand of hair from Vine's forehead. You were incredible, he said quietly. You don't do too bad yourself, she said softly. I panicked completely. Yeah, I noticed. They both laughed, that fragile, sleepy kind of laughter that comes after surviving something enormous. As the sky outside turned pale gold, the nurses dimmed the lights and left them alone for the first time. The room was hushed now, filled only with the baby's soft breathing and the steady rhythm of Vine's heart monitor. Jungkook sat beside them, one hand resting over Vine's and the other gently touching the baby's tiny fingers. She's unreal, he murmured. We did that. Vine said softly, eyes closed. You and me. Yeah, they were silent for a while, just staring at her. Then Jungkook whispered, I'm sorry. Vine turned to her head. eyebrows lifting slightly. For what? For calling that night a mistake. He said, his voice raw, for not being brave enough to see what it really was. The best thing that ever happened to me. Her eyes softened. You were scared. Still am. Good. She said with a tired face. That means you cared, Jungkook laughed quietly. She is going to change everything. She already has. When the nurse returned with the clipboard, she asked gently, have you decided on a name? Vine looked at Jungkook. He blinked out off guard. We didn't talk about it, did we? Vine smiled faintly. I had a few in mind. Let's hear them. Lila, she said softly. It means night. Jungkook tilted his head. Because she came after the longest one? Because she ended it. Vine replied. He smiled, his eyes shining. Lila, he repeated. It's perfect. The nurse wrote it down, and the name felt like a promise hanging in the air, delicate, eternal. Later that morning, when Vine finally drifted off to sleep, Jungkook sat by the window with Lila on his arms. He couldn't stop staring at her, tiny movements, a yawn, a twitch. A sigh felt like watching magic breathe. He whispered, you know, I wasn't ready for you, not even close, but I think you are exactly what I need. Lila stirred softly, her tiny hand dripping over his finger with surprising strength. Jungkook laughed under his breath. Yeah, you have got her spirit, that's for sure. He looked back at Vine, peaceful now, her face pale but beautiful, and something inside him shifted completely. The fear that had haunted him for months faded into something else, something solid. He wasn't just a man who had made a mistake anymore. He was a man who would never ever let the mistake define their story again. The morning sun swept softly through the hospital blinds, painting the room in warm gold. Vine lay in bed, pale but glowing, a blanket wrapped loosely over her shoulders. Lila rested in her arms, curling around her mother's hand. Jungkook sat beside the bed, his hair messy, eyes blurry but shining. He hadn't slept much, and yet exhaustion couldn't diminish the awe that hung in the air like a tangible thing. She's perfect, he whispered, leaning forward to brush a stray lock of hair from Lila's forehead. Vine smiled faintly. You keep saying that, she teased softly, like I might forgot. I mean it every single time, he said, voice trembling. I don't think I have ever felt this before. Vine's chest tightened. She reached out, touching his arm gently. Neither have I. Jungkook had spent the night watching Lila, unsure how to hold her, how to soothe her, how to be the dad he suddenly realized he had to be. He had been terrified, scared of hurting her, scared of doing it wrong, but every time she looked up at him with wide, curious eyes, the fear melted. Do you need me to burp her? She asked quietly, voice soft. Jungkook nodded, almost reverently, taking her carefully into his arms. He tapped her gently, marveling at the way she pressed her tiny face into his chest. I think she likes me, he said softly. She already loves you, she said, smiling tiredly. He glanced at her, surprised. You really think so? I know so, Vine replied. She can feel it. You are her dad. The words hit him harder than she expected. He swallowed, brushing a tear from his cheek without thinking. Then I will never ever let her down, he whispered. They spent the morning quietly, the room filled with the soft rhythm of Lila's breathing and the faint hum of the hospital machines. It was surreal. The life outside continued as usual, but inside their little cocoon, everything had shifted. I can't believe she is here, Vine murmured. I know, he said softly, holding her hand over Lila. I keep thinking it's a dream. It's real, she replied. And it's ours. They laughed softly, a gentle, tired sound, the kind that only comes after surviving something monumental. Every tiny thing fascinated Jungkook, the way Lila's fingers wrapped around his own, the way she yawned, the way she stretched, and soft cooing that escaped her lips. Look at her hands, he whispered. She's got your tiny fingers, you know that? Maybe, Wine said with a weak smile, but she's got your stubborn streak too. Jungkook chuckled, brushing his thumb across her path. Then she's going to be perfect. She already is, Wine said softly. The words hung in the air, simple but powerful, a quiet affirmation of the life they had created together. By mid-morning, Wine had regained enough strength for a small breakfast. Jungkook first over her, insisting she eat slowly, helping her sip water and teasing her gently when she tried to sneak bites of chocolate instead of hospital food. Chocolate is necessity, Wine insisted, wiggling her fingers like a stubborn child. You just had a baby, Jungkook said, laughing softly. Give your stomach a break. I don't think the baby would mind, she whispered, smiling. He caught her hand, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. Neither would I. For a moment, the room was quiet, just filled with the faint rustle of hospital linens, the soft ghost of the daughter, and the calm after the storm. Later that day, when the nurses cleared them for discharge, Jungkook and Wine packed their small belongings. Lila, swaddled and sleepy, was tucked safely into a car seat, her tiny hand peeking out from the blanket. Ready? Jungkook asked, glancing nervously at Wine. As ready as I will ever be, she replied. He grinned, sliding his hand into hers. Then let's go home, our real home. The ride back was quiet, filled with small glances and soft touches. Every bump in the road made Lila stir, and Jungkook instinctively rubbed her back, whispering little reassurance. Wine watched him, heart full, realizing that the man she had once loved, doubted, and feared had become exactly the father she had hoped for, her tender, protective, and utterly devoted. That night in their apartment, the three of them settled into a tentative routine. Wine fed Lila, rocking her softly, while Jungkook hovered nearby, ready to help but careful not to crowd her. You are a natural, she whispered, watching him gently wipe a tiny spittle from Lila's mouth. I'm just copying you, he said with a tired smile, but it feels right. They laughed softly, the kind of quiet laughter that fills a home with warmth rather than noise. As the night deepened, Lila finally fell asleep, snuggled against Wine's chest. Jungkook sat beside them, brushing a kiss across her hair, feeling a love so overwhelming it almost hurt. We did it, he whispered. We did, Wine replied, smiling softly. For the first time in months, neither thought about mistakes or regrets, only the life they had created, fragile, miraculous, and perfect in its imperfection. The dawn came again, soft and golden, washing over their small apartment. Outside, the city moved on as usual, unaware of the quiet miracle inside. But inside, everything had changed. Wine rested her head on Jungkook's shoulder, Lila nestled between them. And for the first time, they felt all. No past heartbreak, no fear, no doubts could touch this moment. The night of mistakes had ended and the morning of their new life had begun. She is ours, Jungkook whispered, brushing Wine's hair from her face. Yes, she murmured, ours, and as Lila stared, tiny eyes fluttering open once more. They knew no matter what the future held, they would face it together. The baby who had once been the result of a single messy night had become their greatest joy, their truest beginning. Skip to weeks later, the apartment was quiet save for the soft hum of a baby monitor and the faint gurgle of a tiny voice somewhere in the other room. Vine sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by toys, blankets, and half-folded laundry, with Lila nestled against her chest. Jungkook hovered nearby, trying not to look too anxious as he balanced a cup of lukewarm coffee in one hand and a diaper in the other. Do you feel like we are improvising this whole parent thing? He asked, voice muffled because Lila had just slept. Vine smiled, brushing a soft curl from her daughter's face every single day, she admitted. But somehow we are surviving. Surviving is an understatement, Jungkook said, giving her a sheepish grin. We are thriving. Vine laughed, the soft sound but full of love. I would say thriving is more like when she sleeps past 6 a.m. And let's face it, that hasn't happened yet. Jingle groaned, remembering the last night when Lila had cried every hour on the hour. I swear I'm going to Indian coffee that actually works through the door. I think you need more than coffee, Vine said, resting her head against the couch. You need a nap, a hot shower, and maybe a week long vacation. Yeah, that sounds about right, he replied, looking down at Lila, who was now awake and staring at him with wide, curious eyes. Lila's tiny fingers curled around his thumb, and Jungkook felt a strange surge of emotion, awe, love, and a little bit of panic, all wrapped in one. He had held her hundreds of times before, but moments like this never failed to knock the air out of him. She's incredible, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. Vine smiled faintly, eyes tired but bright. She is, she said softly. The words fell heavier, deeper, and infinitely more beautiful than they had on the day she was born. By 8 a.m., the apartment had transformed into a lively battleground of toys, laundry, and scattered baby gear. Jungkook tried to make breakfast, which mostly involved scrambled eggs and a small fire hazard due to his inexperience while juggling the stove and a toddler at the same time. Careful, Vine shouted, holding Lila in one hand while pointing at a pan that was threatening to overflow. I'm fine, he said through the smoke detector might have disagreed. Lila giggled, and a tiny seed sound that immediately made both parents freeze and smile. It was the first laugh she had given that morning, spontaneous, unprompted, that filled with joy. There it is, Vine said, clapping softly, her first real laugh. Jungkook froze, unsure whether to celebrate or cry. I can't handle it, he whispered, kneeling down to press a kiss to Lila's forehead. She is too perfect. She is all of 3 months old, Jungkook. Relax, Vine teased, though she couldn't hide her own teary smile. Relax, he echoed. I can't. Look at her, Lila cooed, opening her tiny mouth as if responding to him. The sight made Jungkook's chest tighten, that overwhelming, all-consuming love of being a parent, the kind that he hadn't imagined could exist before this little human came into their lives. A few months later, the apartment was less chaotic but far from peaceful. Lila had started crawling, discovering every corner and every item of furniture. With relentless curiosity, Jungkook spent half his days chasing her, half his nights monitoring her sleep, and all his energy marveling at the way she learned, explored the world. She is going to be the trouble, he muttered one afternoon as Lila tugged at his shoelace with a determined gleam in her eyes. She already is, she said with a laugh, sitting on the couch and folding the baby clothes. But that's what she's amazing. Amazing, huh? Jungkook said, picking Lila up and spinning her gently in his arms. I can see it, full of personality, a little stubborn and entirely capable of breaking both our hands simultaneously. Sounds like her dad, she teased, brushing his hair from his forehead. Hey, Jungkook said, pretending to be offended. I'm not stubborn, I'm determined. Lila cooed in agreement. She was just happy to be spun around, and both her parents laughed. The kind of laughter that feels like sunlight spilling into a room. The first holiday season brought its own challenges. Christmas lights tangled themselves around the tree, wrapping paper littered on the floor, and tiny toys created a minefield in the living room. Do you think she will like this? Vine asked, folding up a soft plush reindeer. She will love it, he said, adjusting at the tray slightly so it wouldn't topple over. Or at least she will love throwing it at me, which is basically the same thing. Vine replied with a smile. They recreated together, mostly laughing at their own mistakes. Jungkook managed to hang a strand of lights in a way that looked like abstract act. While Vine accidentally wrapped herself in tinsel, Leila sat on the floor clapping and squealing, completely delighted by the chaos. She is going to remember this, he said softly, watching her tiny hands pat at the tinsel. Maybe, she said, or maybe she will just remember that her parents were slightly insane. Slightly, Shenguk laughed, ruffling her hair. The three of them sat on the couch that evening, exhausted but happy. Lila fell asleep with her head resting against Vine's chest, and Jungkook leaned back, gently stroking her tiny hand. I can't believe we made this, he whispered. We did, she said softly, smiling at the baby in her arms. And we will keep making it. The months flew by, each milestone both terrifying and exhilarating. Leila's first birthday arrived faster than they could comprehend. Vine had planned a small gathering family, a few close friends, and enough baby safe decoration to fill the living room. Jungkook was in charge of the cake, which was both a triumph and a minor disaster. It looks edible, she said hesitantly as the frosting slid slightly off one side. Perfectly imperfect, he said, smiling proudly, just like her. Lila crawled toward the cake, grabbing at the colorful frosting with her tiny hands. Jungkook swooped her up just in time, laughing at her determined little grin. She is fearless, she said, watching her daughter's eyes light up. Yeah, Jungkook said softly, brushing frosting off Lila's cheek. She's got that from her parents. The party was filled with laughter, singing, and the kind of chaos only a 1-year-old could bring. As Lila fell asleep later that night, exhausted from her new adventures, both Vine and Jungkook sat quietly beside her, holding hands and marveling at the year they had just survived and thrived together. As the apartment quieted and the lights dimmed, Jungkook leaned back in his chair, staring at the two people who had become the center of his world. You know, he said softly, I used to think that one night changed everything in the worst way. Yeah, Vine murmured, tried but smiling, brushing Lila's hair from her forehead. Now, he paused, looking at both mother and daughter. Now I see it didn't break anything, it built everything, it built us. Vine's eyes glistened. It did, she whispered. It built us in ways I have never imagined. Jungkook kissed her hand gently and then looked at Lila sleeping peacefully between them. We did good, he said softly. We did, she agreed. And in that quiet moment, the chaos, the laughter, the tears, the exhaustion, it all faded into something perfect. A family, not perfect in the way the world defines it, but perfect in the way that mattered most. Love, presence, and everything that truly counted. It happened one sunny afternoon, the golden light spilling into the living room. Lila had been standing at the edge of the couch, holding onto the cushions for balance. Jungkook crouched a few feet away, arms outstretched, encouraging her. Come on, baby girl, you can do it. Lila wobbled slightly, tearing like a tiny statue in motion. Vine watched from the couch, her heart in her throat. She is nervous, she whispered, clutching the blanket beside her. She is brave, Jungkook said firmly, voice full of quiet air. Jungkook took a tentative sleep, then another, and finally a third before collapsing into Jungkook's arms with a triumphant swivel. She did it, he exclaimed, spinning her gently. Our little miracle. She is walking. Vine's eyes filled with tears. She is growing up so fast, she murmured, reaching for a hug from both Jungkook and Lila. She is going to be unstoppable, he said softly, holding Lila close, just like her mom. Don't make her too proud of me, she teased, though she couldn't hide her smile. Weeks later, Lila spoke her first words. It was a quiet morning, the kind where sunlight filters gently through the blinds and everything feels suspended in time. Jungkook sat on the floor stacking blocks, while Lila sat opposite him, tiny fingers pressing the blocks into place. Say, Dada, he encouraged, holding out his hands. Lila stared at him, then blinked and finally whispered, barely audible, yet filled with all the weight in the world. Dada. Jungkook froze, his heart hammering. Did she? She did, she said softly from the couch, her hand over her heart. She said it. Jungkook laughed, tears streaming down his cheeks. I can't even breathe. Lila giggled, pleased with herself. Then she repeated it louder. Dada! Jungkook scooped her into his arms, holding her close. I love you, he whispered, voice breaking. I love you so much. Wine watched them, eyes glistening. In that moment, the 2 years, the heartbreak, the fear, the mistakes, all seemed to have led to this single, perfect miracle. By 6 months past her first birthday, Vine and Jungkook decided the first time for Lila's first real outing, a trip to the park. She toddled around the grassy path, Jungkook holding her hand while Vine pushed a stroller for her little toys and snacks. Look at her go, Jungkook exclaimed, laughing as Lila ran ahead, wobbling out determined. She is fearless, she said, watching her daughter climb a small hill just like her dad. Don't you dare, he protested, though he couldn't hide his grin. The afternoon was filled with laughter, scrapped knees, and gentle chases after a toddler who refused to be contained. They spread like a blanket under a tree, sharing snacks and quiet conversation where Lila explored every inch of the park. I never thought I would be this happy, Jungkook admitted softly, leaning back and watching his daughter examine a flower with curiosity. Neither did I, she said, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. We have built something incredible. We have, he agreed. And in that sunlight park, the wind rustled the leaves and their daughters' laughter ringing in the air. They felt a completeness they hadn't known they were missing. Of course, parenthood wasn't all perfect moments. There were arguments, small, silly ones over schedules, feeding times, and exhaustion. But even in those moments, they found themselves coming back to the same understanding. They were in it together. One evening, after a particularly long day, Wine sat on the couch, Lila asleep in the carrier nearby, and sighed heavily. I can't believe how tired I am, she said. Tell me about it, he replied, rubbing his temples. I didn't realize parenting was an extreme sport. I didn't either, she said softly, leaning against him, but it's worth it, isn't it? Every single second, he said without hesitation. Even the crying? Even the crying, he said firmly, pressing a kiss to her temple. Good, she said, closing her eyes and letting herself rest against him. It wasn't always easy in those quiet moments. They could see the reward, a family that loved, laughed, and survived together. The next Christmas was their first real holiday as a family of 3. The apartment sparkled with lights, and Lila, now a confident toddler, pulled at every ornament she could reach. Be careful, he warned, laughing as Lila tugged a string of lights. She's going to be the death of me, Vine whispered, laughing despite herself. Or the light of me, he countered, smiling down at their daughter. They took a small family photo in front of the tree, Jungkook holding Lila with Vine, hugging both of them. The photo captured something far greater than smiles. It captured resilience, joy, and the kind of love that can only grow from mistakes transformed into miracles. The rest of the year was made up of small, quiet joys, morning cuddles, bath time giggles. The first time Lila clapped at his song, the tiny hand that reached for her. Jungkook's each time he came home from work. She's growing so fast, Vine said one night, brushing Lila's hair before bed. I know, Jungkook whispered, holding her close, and yet I wouldn't change a single moment. Neither would I, Vine said softly. In those fleeting ordinary moments, they found extraordinary love in its simple, most powerful form. They had begun their journey in pain, uncertainty, a heartbreak, but through it all, they had built something unshakable, a family, a home, a love that had endured mistakes, fear, and doubt, only to emerge stronger and brighter than they had ever imagined. On the last night of the year, they sat together in the living room, Lila asleep. Between them, Jungkook held her tiny hand in his. Vine rested her head on his shoulder. Do you remember that night? She whispered, the memory of 2 years ago vivid in her mind. The one that changed everything? Jungkook asked softly. Yes, she said. It was supposed to be a mistake. It was the best mistake we have ever made. He replied, kissing her hair gently. It built us, Vine murmured. It did, he agreed. It gave us her, it gave us this, it gave us everything. And as they watched the soft rise and fall of Lila's tiny test, the warm glow of the apartment wrapping around them, they finally understood love, even born from mistake, could be absolute, unshakable, and eternal. They had survived the longest nights. Now they are living in the brightest days together. The end.